Unlocked is brought to you by Invincible, a program designed to unlock the potential of people and teams inside your organization. Join companies like Pfizer, Delta, the CDC, Google, and Chick-fil-A, and others in over 116 countries that are currently using this program to increase productivity and develop healthy cultures. Access hundreds of hours of content that is accessible anytime, anywhere. And finally, use real-time data to understand the health of every team inside your organization, which teams are performing and which ones aren't. Then understand the why behind that performance. Get free access to Invincible for 30 days by visiting www.giant.tv/30days. Hello, welcome to another episode of Unlocked, where we talk about unlocking the potential of our people and sometimes ourselves in order to unlock the potential of organizations and those people around us. And today, I've got an awesome guest, Matt Doherty, Coach Matt Doherty, who many of you probably know, head coach of UNC, worked with James Worthy and Michael Jordan, if you maybe know that name. He coached and worked alongside them, went to national championships, became coach of the year, did a lot of things, played it at UNC also, and then worked his way up to coaching at UNC. 2 years later, after he became head coach, was asked to resign. And that was a huge gut punch for Coach. He tells us a little bit about that story in this interview and about his new book called Rebound. And it's all about that. Of course, it had to be called Rebound, right? But it's all about how do we bounce back from failure? How do we use that pain to our advantage to make something great out of what we do as leaders? And that's where he's focused now, is on leadership and executive leadership. And how do we train leaders to be more aware, to use that knowledge to our advantage, to mine for the truth, is what he's going to talk about. We're going to unpack a lot of thoughts here about that are in his book, things about his journey and his story. And I'm super excited. So let's get into this. Coach Matt, here we go. All right, Coach, how we doing?
Doing great. Good to be on the show, Skot.
I am super excited for this interview. I have never interviewed somebody who's had some kind of relationship with Michael Jordan.
Okay.
So
there you go.
Check it off my bucket list. That's amazing. That's awesome. You've got a new book coming out here called Rebound, Pain to Passion. And let's talk about the premise of that book. So it's obviously has a basketball theme, title behind that. Obviously the basketball paraphernalia behind you. You coach for UNC. Let's talk about that angle a little bit. What is the book premise about? What made you want to write it?
Yeah, it's about failure. It's about rebounding from failure. And that's the name that ties in with basketball, but also bouncing back from setbacks and adversity, which we all go through at some point or another. And if you haven't, you probably will. And then the pain of me losing my job at the University of North Carolina, where I played and was recruited to come back to. And, my first year we had great success, was voted National Coach of the Year. And 2 years later, I was forced to resign. So the pain of losing my job, my leadership was questioned publicly. And so I went on a leadership journey, and leadership then became my passion. And now I'm executive coach. I do corporate talks, wrote a book, and that book is basically about leadership and the lessons that I learned on my leadership journey after I lost my job that I want to share with other people. So as they get to ready to ascend in their leadership role, that maybe they'll avoid the landmines I stepped on.
So you went through this journey, right? You're recruited, you came back, you're coached, you went to championships, you had some success, okay? People would say, oh, he had some success. This looks great, right? Just follow his path, right? But then, oh, wait a second, 2 years later, you're asked to resign. That must have been a bit of a gut punch, as you said, the pain part, right? Yeah. So talk about why did that even happen? What could have prevented that from happening in the first place? You probably thought you were a great leader, right? At some point in time, and then that happened.
Right. Yeah. No, leadership is the most important topic that's the least formally taught. You have to seek out leadership. When we go through high school and college, we get math, we get science, we get English, you don't get any leadership classes, but the only way to learn really leadership is observing it or being part of an athletic team. But even then, you might not be led properly. And a big part of leadership is understanding yourself. And I think one of the biggest blind spots people have is self-awareness. They don't know what they don't know. And so I thought I was a good leader. And then when my leadership was questioned, I did what most coaches and players do. You go watch the film and you try to get better. So I went and studied my mistakes. I had 360-degree surveys done by my former staff. I took assessments and realized my blind spots, because I then surrounded myself with truth tellers. And so when I talk in the book about the 6 no's of leadership, KNOWS, 2 of them, one is know yourself, the other one is the other big one is know the truth. And they work hand in hand, because the only way you're going to know yourself is if you get mind for the truth and surround yourself with truth tellers. Now, people say they want to hear the truth, but a lot of people are too insecure to accept the truth because they get defensive and then they bully you, or they ignore it, or they don't give you the lane to communicate it. And I think that's where dysfunction sets in.
Mining for the truth. That's a really great kind of picture, right? Mm-hmm. It's not like the truth sits on the surface. It's not like it's handed to us, right? It's not like we just stroll outside and go, oh, there's the truth laying on the lawn over there, right? It's like, I've got to dig for the truth. And that takes effort and it takes intentionality. And
exactly right.
That's where it all comes down to, right? And a lot of leaders aren't willing to make the effort, right? Be the intentional person they need to be.
They don't create a safe environment for somebody to share the truth. And I say that in my next job, I'm going to have an assistant coach that says on his or her business card, their name and their title is truth teller. And that's almost a pass for them to come to me whenever something's on their mind that they want to tell me. I need to know the bad news. I want to know the bad news first. I want to know the mistakes I made first. Because if you don't manage the truth will manage you right out the door. And I say this, wouldn't you as a leader love to put a microphone in the break room? So after you have a staff meeting, you go to your office and your senior staff goes to the break room, and then you hear them bitch about you. Wouldn't you like to know what they're complaining about so you could fix it? That's like you saying, let's bring it to the front lawn. I want to bring it so I can hear it. I want to hear it, because then I can address it, because I don't know. I don't know that I was too short to Angela in that meeting. I didn't know that my body language stinks. I didn't know that I was on my iPad while somebody was giving their presentation. I didn't know that you felt these meetings were a waste of time because we don't have an agenda. I don't know what I don't know. So if I can create an environment where you tell me this, then you feel like I care. You feel a stake in the operation, and I get better. We become more efficient. What a concept.
Brilliance, right?
Brilliant.
We call it, I like to call it broccoli in your teeth, right? nobody knows really they have the broccoli in their teeth, right?
Right.
The truth teller
Right.
would come along and say, hey, dude, you got
Scott,
something, right?
My wife was a dental hygienist, so she tells you like between 8 and 9, hey, broccoli 8 and 9, and then you're like, oh, thanks. Yeah,
my wife's a dental hygienist too. I love it. She doesn't say the teeth numbers to me, but
Yeah. So no, the same deal. Hey, dude, Scott, right there, boom, fix it now. Yeah.
Yep. Brilliant. And I love that analogy of rewatch the film. Like, let's go back and watch the film. And that truth teller can help you do that, right? And that all goes back to analysis. And how much time, just give us an idea, how much time do teams, leaders, coaches spend watching film for basketball?
After a game, the average time I would spend watching the film with my staff and grading the tape would be 3 hours.
Okay. What if we had leaders that worked on themselves every week, right, for 3 hours?
That's why I'm an executive coach. I'm an executive coach for Vistage. It's the leading executive coaching organization in the world, and that's why I do what I do. Because if you play golf or tennis, the best golfers in the world work with a swing coach like every day, and they watch film every day. But leaders, I'm good. No, I got this. It's like, once you think you've got it figured out in golf, you hit it out of bounds. Once a leader thinks they have it figured out, they hit it out of bounds. And they can really screw things up if they're not continually on top of their game. That's why I talk about having a leadership practice. I'm quoting Allen Iverson now. We're talking about practice. We've got to practice leadership because it's a skill like hitting a golf ball. You don't get a degree and say, I've arrived and now I know what I'm talking about. You need to practice it, because Roy Williams, the coach who just retired at North Carolina, I worked for 7 years, and he'd say, you might be on the right track, but if you're standing still, you're going to get run over. So we need to continually be lifelong learners, to continue to get better each and every day.
I love it. That is really good. A lot of leaders get to where they are, and I would imagine a lot of players get to where they are by being good, right? Your skills get you there. And then they start getting, they reach the top, they reach an upper level, and they start thinking, excuse me, do you know how I got here? Like, I'm here because I'm good at my job. And you're like, that's fine. You're good at that thing you do, but you kind of suck when it comes to leadership and communication. You realize that, right? And they wonder why they don't make it.
Right.
And I don't know if that parallels your journey at all, right? Of going into where you got to as a coach. And I'm not trying to put this on you in any way, shape, or form, but that awakening, I had that awakening myself, right? Running my own agency and then going, I help companies communicate all over the world, but yet I was a horrible communicator, right? Like, what?
Right.
So
right. The cobbler's children have no shoes.
It's my story. That's my story.
No, it resonates with me because I got to be the national coach of the year at North Carolina and forced to resign 2 years later. And I went on a leadership journey. And I was taking a class at Waldron with Mike Useem. I was just on their podcast. And we were talking about emotional intelligence in 2003. And I never had heard about emotional intelligence before that moment. And so, I said, oh man, if I would have taken that class before I was a head coach, I might still be the head coach. So I valued the science of coaching more than the art of coaching. I like the X's and the O's and the strategy, but I wasn't great at understanding how each individual was different and how I was different from them. And that's when I go back to the 6 no's of leadership, the first being S. I talk about STEVIT is the name I made up, STEVIT, knowing yourself, but you got to know your team. So I'm one way. If you go by the DISC assessment, I'm a driver and an influencer. But most of the population are steady. They don't like change. I like change. I get excited by change, but most people don't like it. And I didn't understand that. So if 70% of the population don't like change, and I have, 10 players, do the math, right? 7 of them don't want a lot of change. So I didn't understand that at that point. And then, you got to know your environment, you got to know your vision, you got to know the industry. And then lastly, you got to know the truth. You got to mine for the truth. And that's hard because people don't like to tell you the truth. They don't like to create conflict. That's why you got to create a safe environment to get feedback, because people will tell you what you want to hear because they want to get out of an awkward conversation as quickly as possible.
And we don't get the best out of them when they're just telling us what they want, what we want to hear, right? When we're not creating a safe place for them. I mean, Google did a study, their Aristotle study, and they were analyzing high performing teams within Google. And the top thing that indicated a high performing team was psychological safety. That was it. The ability to say, hey, you have broccoli in your teeth, and the ability to come out and speak the truth.
Do I?
No, I've been trying to tell you this whole time, Coach, that you've had. I'm just kidding. No, but but that's what it's all about. Now, so
your fly's open.
Oh,
your fly's open.
That's a beauty about Zoom, right? You can't tell. I could not even have pants on right now. You wouldn't know. It doesn't matter. But here, let's talk about failure. Okay, so you know something about that. You know a thing or two. You've lost, I don't know how many games in your life. Yeah, how many you lost your coaching gig, right? So you could have easily just gone, I'm done. I'm out. There's nothing more for me, right? I've failed too much in life. I failed too much in this. I've hit the top and now I'm a failure again. What did that do to you? What sparked?
Well, I think the beautiful thing about athletics growing up, and I talked to my brother about this a long time ago. He got his law degree at Fordham, went to Wharton, works at Goldman Sachs. And we talk about, you talk about Angela Duckworth's book, Grit. Like in sports, you fail a lot and you put it out there. Like you're putting it out there for the public to see. I jokingly say players that want exposure, you better be careful. You just might get exposed. So, people are going to criticize you. Oh, you stink. You're slow. You lost. You can't shoot. You missed that foul shot. So there's risk in doing that, but you deal with failure often. And so what do? You rebound. You get back to practice. You watch the film and you try to get better so that the next time you perform at a higher level. That's competition. That's business. That's life. And I think sports gives you that foundation that is a real advantage. And, you hear a lot of businesses saying, we like to recruit athletes. We like to recruit because they understand goals. They understand failure. They understand, working hard. They understand teamwork. And I think there's a lot to be said for that.
There is. Embracing failure. You talk about learning from it, growing from it. How do we look at that, right? People talked about the phrase fail forward, right? Of using failure as a way to set up a platform for future growth and what we're doing. Part of that failure is being able to forgive, right? In that process. And you speak about that as well. Talk about your thoughts about that.
Well, to rebound, I think you have to be able to forgive. And forgiveness is a hard thing, especially if you are competitive, because you're wired to beat other people. And if they beat you, you want to beat them back. But if something happens to you, like with my loss of my job and I felt betrayed, I needed to forgive. Nelson Mandela, who's one of the best leaders that the world's ever seen, talked about upon his release from prison to freedom, he said, I had to get rid of the hatred. Otherwise, I would be in prison forever. And so the only way to do that is to forgive and forgive other people. And you know, I think through failure, I've become hopefully a better Christian. And you know, if Jesus could forgive those, if Jesus, while on the cross, could forgive those who betrayed him, who were put him on the cross, then I could forgive somebody that I think betrayed me. And then that's healthy. Doesn't mean you forget, but just forgive. And then the other thing is you got to forgive yourself, because I think sometimes we could be our own worst critic and beat ourselves up and say, gosh, why did I make that decision? Why did I leave Notre Dame? Why didn't I show more respect to that person? Why did I do that? And you do that and you just spiral into a dark place. And quite frankly, it's a hell of an ego for someone to say that, because we're all flawed. We all make mistakes. We are, in fact, human. You made a mistake. I made a mistake. Most people would make the same decisions I made. So you got to forgive yourself. And I think once I did that, it was very freeing.
That's so important to understand that in order to truly be able to forgive others, we really need to first forgive ourselves, right? I think that probably needs to be the first step in our journey, right? We coach clients and saying, you cannot give what you don't possess.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I need to be able to possess that, whether that is, like you said earlier, self-awareness. If I'm going to preach that to other people, I better sure understand who I am, right? First, before I can truly help others understand that as well. What would be that advice you would give to, I'll say, your younger self as a coach that was on this journey, hit the top, right? Championships, head coach, you were rocking it. And then what would be that advice you would give yourself now?
Slow down and listen. Slow down and listen. Yeah. I mean, sometimes you think, you think you may be smarter than the smartest guy in the room. You want to get there fast. It's not a sprint. And I think, going slow and probably have trusted advisors, have more a personal board of directors that can help you and be the experts and help you see where the landmines are. And when you're going too fast, and if you don't have those people and you're not listening to them, you're going too fast and you step on a landmine, you get blown up. And I think that's what happened to me.
That sounds like a very mature D thing to say, right? As a high D, that whole thing you said had to be very difficult, right? Very intentional about those things that you would say to yourself, because all those things you listed would probably not be natural tendencies for you, right?
No, because I go back and I talk about the park in my book, and that's where I grew up playing basketball. And if you showed any hesitation in the park, you were considered soft or a punk. So if there was an opportunity, you needed to be the first one to go for it. And if somebody challenged you and you backed up, you were considered soft. So if somebody challenged you, you need to go at them. So that's kind of the intensity the drive. That's the way I was wired. And, too much of a good thing's a bad thing. So knowing how to slow down and observe and gather input, find counsel, wise counsel, while you're going fast, that's hard. That's kind of counterintuitive for me. So I think that was something that, is a learned behavior, but sometimes you got to be smacked in the back of the head before you learn it.
It's true. It's true. And that's what failure teaches us, right?
100%.
Failure comes up in the back and hits you in the back of the head and says, "Hey, Matt, listen up. Like there's something wrong here." Yeah. Basically, I don't know if my failure doesn't say that, but yeah, no, my failure calls me other names. But I think that's brilliant to think about, that we have these protections in our life as long as we listen to them and recognize that they exist. Only then we'll be able to make progress and truly rebound from these opportunities. Right.
Yep.
Now, your book has had a super successful launch. Congratulations on that. It's out now. People can get their hands on it by going where? How do people get?
They can go to two places: Amazon, and they can go to rebound-book.com. So
Okay.
either one of those sites, they can go to Amazon or rebound-book.com.
And with you doing what you're doing right now, coaching executives, what is the value proposition you want to put out there for them as what you're bringing to the table, whether it's a speaking event or a coaching session, or if it's with Vistage, whatever it is, what is that you want to tell people?
Well, I think that one thing is, as a CEO, as a business leader, it's lonely at the top, and you want to have a thinking partner, somebody that is only interested in your success, doesn't want anything from you, doesn't need anything from you, will tell you the truth. I'll tell you the truth. We're going to drill down for the truth. And I'm going to hold you accountable to action items that we agree need to be done. And some of those are going to be hard. It might be firing somebody. It might be pivoting in your business. It might be having a crucial conversation with your chairman of the board. But helping you make better decisions that drive better results. Because your life is nothing but a series of decisions and dealing with the consequences. And the better decisions you make, the better your life will be. Boom, simple. It's really fundamental, and that's why I'm a coach. It's fundamental stuff. It's not rocket science. And the issues are consistent across all industries. So, I don't focus in an industry. Could be, somebody in the steel industry, or it could be somebody in financial services. It could be somebody in the construction business. All have the same issues. And it centers around people.
Because the fundamentals don't change, right? I mean, how many free throws you don't stop shooting free throws as soon as you hit college basketball, right? You don't start practicing layups. It's the fundamentals that are the small pieces that when you put them together will help us win and achieve greatness. And that's where it really comes into, as well as the less. So what you're telling me is that if people don't want to get out their shovel and their pickaxe and mine for the truth, if they don't want to do that, then don't hire you.
Yeah, no, I'm going to challenge you just like I would as a player. That's the thing I love about this. It's just like coaching a team. I'm coaching a team, and I'm going to put you in the hot seat, and we're going to find out what issues you want to deal with and how we can help you resolve them and hold you to action items that need to be done. And So many of us have blind spots. So I want to close up those blind spots and help you learn and grow. And as a result, people say, oh, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money. I'm like, no. Vistage in my coaching practice creates time. It doesn't take time. And it'll be a return on your investment, not a cost. So it's all about mindset. And if they don't have a growth mindset, I can't help them. Wait till they fail, then they'll call me.
That's what happens, right?
Yeah.
It's the you're slapping you in the back of the head, right? Wake up.
Yeah.
So that's so great. This has been fantastic. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. I really appreciate you being on the show. Again, good luck with the book and the coaching and all the relationships that you're building and the lives that you're changing. Well done, and keep going.
Thank you, Skot, for your patience in getting the show put together. Thank you, and I've enjoyed it a great deal.
So good, am I right? Leadership is not taught. It is one of the most important things that we can have in life. And I am willing to bet a lot of people out there would be saying, hey, if you're going to learn something, learn about leadership, learn about leading yourself, learn about leading teams, leading your family, whatever that aspect is. And yet it is not taught. It is not taught in schools in that type of environment. Sure, there's MBA programs and there's other things later we can learn about, but as a core curriculum, leadership is not taught. And we got to learn about what it means to fail sometimes as a leader. What are those things that we're doing? What are those things that we are understanding about ourselves, about what we've been doing that is not working? And how do we improve upon it? How do we make it better? I loved his analogy. Watching the film. Let's rewind. Let's watch the film. 3 hours they spend watching film after each game. How much time are you spending watching film about yourself, about your own leadership? How much are you mining for the truth? How many of you do you want to know the truth? That is so key to us being better, is learning those things. So check out that book, okay? It's going to be impactful for you as you learn about what he talks about as the 6 no's, the KNOWS, and those things about leadership. They're going to help you be better. Learn from his journey, okay? Learn from your own journey. Learn what you need to do to be a better leader, to be a better father, to be a better mother, to be a better person of the community, of your team, organization, and yourself, to make sure you unlock your own potential. Thank you for being here, Matt. It was awesome talking to you. I am super excited to let you know I've got some free tools on my website where you can go and analyze, become more aware of your own self. I've got a lot of these interviews on my website at skotwaldron.com. Go check those out. I've also got a lot of free videos of tools and principles on YouTube. You can go check those out as well. Like, subscribe, share, do all those things. I'd love it. Again, I'm really excited to have you on the show today and be viewing this, and I will see you next time on another episode of Unlocked.